Hi, Amy.
Happy.
Last night we watched 90 Day Fiancé, Season 11, Episode 12. What were your initial thoughts?
What?
Initial thoughts?
No, I know. Those are my initial thoughts. It was, there was, okay, I was entertained. There was a lot going on. There was a lot of it that I was just like, oh, pish posh. I wrote quite a bit of notes, which I thought was surprising. Yeah, I thought it was a decent episode. What did you think?
I thought it was much better than last week. There was a lot of stuff happening, and we saw everybody in the cast. All of the couples. Everyone was there. Full attendance was nice.
That was quite nice. Yeah, I was going to ask you if we saw everyone because typically I don't write this much.
It was a plentiful episode.
There was quite a bit to say, and quite surprisingly, well, maybe not, but it was almost sad at some points.
Okay, well, we'll get into the sadness in a little bit. First, I'm going to do 1, 2, no 3. 1, rate, review, follow us wherever you listen to the podcast, and 2, watch our podcast on YouTube at 90 Day Fiancé. Honestly, let's get right into it. Matt and Amani and Ani. Okay, so Amani has arranged for a date, which her husband and Ani will attend, not her.
That's perfect for her insecurities.
It is. And her jealousy and her anger and her suspicion, all of those lovely issues that Amani definitely has in spades. But I found it really funny watching Matt and Ani on their date because they were so awkward together. They have zero chemistry. Awkwardly making small talk definitely shows that these two are not the glue in the relationship. The chemistry comes from Ani and Amani.
Sex.
Yes.
Because you can have that sexual tension and that sexual attraction without actually being emotionally or mentally attracted to the person. And I feel like that's exactly, well, maybe not even that. I think she's attracted to their pockets.
Oh, yes, that could be. But I definitely don't feel like she has any chemistry with Matt. I think Matt is just an appendage to her. She's really in the relationship for, like you said, perhaps money, but also most of the time for Amani, not really for Matt. And Matt is feeling jealous of how much love Ani and Amani have for each other. He feels like the odd man out, which of course he is. And I'm really not at all surprised, as we know that this is a fake relationship. We've said that many times already on our podcast, but also because the couple and the throuple, any version of the couple within the throuple you want to look at, they haven't really spent any significant time together at all. So how could they have built a relationship and that naturalness together yet?
No, I definitely agree with you. It was so awkward.
Mm-hmm.
I wondered if I think that this is another manipulation tactic on Amani's behalf to send them on a date so that she can set herself up to attack them later. Or
yeah, maybe
support to validate her jealousy, her insecurities, blah, 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 blah. And also fun that this date occurs after she tells Matt that Ani is more into her than she is into him. So maybe this meeting was to add credence to that.
By sending them out together, she's looking to strengthen her position as a couple with Ani. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because they have absolutely nothing in common. She knows that Matt is awful at small talk, and there's no way that this is going to go well.
Okay, fair enough. I see what you're saying. Yes, it does. It does. I hadn't thought of it that way, but that is a good way to look at it. If there's nothing else that you want to talk about the date itself, I think we should move on to the very next scene, which is supremely weird. Amani has Ani's ex's phone number, and she's been sending money through this guy, which totally baffles me. And she's set up a meeting with him, with her and Matt, and this guy's name is Ray.
She says she's in love, but she's not dumb.
She is wildly suspicious and jealous. I wouldn't have characterized it as being in love and not dumb. This is not normal behavior. You don't go and talk to your partner's ex behind their back. Like, way to set up failure for the relationship or to confirm your bias that nobody is to be trusted because you yourself are not to be trusted. And you're betraying everybody's trust by doing this, by setting this up. And she even says, oh, I'm going to just ask for forgiveness later. Well, you know it's wrong. Why are you doing it now? Why don't you talk to her? If this is such a problem for Amani, why not talk to Ani about it and air your concerns openly rather than doing all of this subterfuge?
I found that so aggravating. I feel like we all know that one person that would definitely go and do this. And I've talked to girlfriends that would say, I would love to talk to his ex-girlfriend to see if he actually is who he is. But I don't think I've known anyone who's actually done it. It's all just been theoreticals. And the fact that she actually did it, I find is just so incredibly appalling. And then when she said that she's doing it behind Ani's back, awful. You plan on marrying this woman, and yet here you are going behind her back to talk to her ex-boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And when she started mentioning the money, all the money has to go through him. I clapped my hands and I said, "Pimp, he is her pimp."
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Why do they have a joint bank account? And why do Matt and Amani have to send Ani money through this account? Why doesn't Ani have her own? Why are they sending her money to begin with? What is this really all about? And it just reconfirms for us what we've been thinking all along, is that there's something else going on here. This is manufactured because this is so wildly out of the norm. How could it be anything but fake?
If
Anything.
any of it was real, she's
Yeah.
an escort and they're paying the pimp for her time.
Yes.
And I wonder, does she just ask for a certain amount and they send it? Is there any negotiation? Do they send it freely? It doesn't matter because none of it's real.
No, no. So that's all I have for that lovely relationship.
My last comment was, oh, yes, going behind your girlfriend's back to talk to her ex-boyfriend. That's how you do transparency.
So hopping from one delightful and loving relationship to the next, let's go visit Shekinah and Sarper. It's finally time for them to sit down and talk things out. They are no longer speaking to one another, and they still have 62 days left on the clock, which is quite a lot. So Sarper starts the conversation off because Shekinah is very reluctant to say anything at all. He opens up about how he feels useless. He's the dog sitter, basically. He can't work. He can't really help out. There's nothing he can do except, I guess, leave the house whenever he needs to because of Shekinah's job. And when he says this to her, I found her response to be really telling because she doesn't acknowledge his feelings. She doesn't say, like, I could see how you would feel that way, anything like that. She just blames him. You're rude, you're silent, you're distant, you're cold, etc., etc.
And then she says, I'm being punished.
Yes. She
All
pulls
right.
the victim card many times. She also pulls the wedding card, as in, I don't know if I want to get married anymore. She's nothing but threats and self-victimization at the same time that she's thrusting all of the blame onto his shoulders.
In addition to being completely and utterly condescending.
Yes. And will not acknowledge his perspective or point of view at all, will not take any responsibility for this current situation, have been partially caused by her. It's all on Sarper. And to his credit, he stays pretty calm throughout this. Did you notice that? I thought that was impressive.
Well, when she's throwing all of those daggers at him, she gave him so much fuel to be able to throw it back. And he maintained his composure, and he maintained his ability to communicate how he feels. And he didn't play the victim card. He didn't play the blame card. I think he navigated the situation very well. But something that really stood out to me was when she was saying, I had so much freedom when I was back home and I left everything to come and be with you. And she practically lost her mind because he has so much freedom in being with her. He leaves for hours and she doesn't know where he is because she kicks him out.
But does he have the freedom? Because we know from the first episode that when they arrived in LA, that he said, oh, could I come to the beach while you're working? This is a place that I would love to be. And she said, no, you can't. You can stay in the neighborhood.
Yeah. So, her kicking him out and limiting his geographical adventure zone is like, now she's using it against him. You have so much freedom. I give you so much freedom. Just screams controlling.
And she doesn't even acknowledge what Sarper is calmly trying to point out to her, saying, when you were in Turkey, you basically took over my house. Like, you had free reign to change things in my house. And I know it took him a long time to do certain things like get rid of that cabinet full of bottles, but he did eventually do it. And he changed his bed. He changed the furniture. Like, he was doing all these things to accommodate her. And in their place, He's obviously not allowed to do that, especially downstairs where the aesthetic studio is. Then his family embraced Shekinah like a daughter and a sister. And her family is definitely not embracing Sarper. Oh no, it's nothing but judgment and criticism and side eye. He's probably feeling very, very alone. So, him pointing out, look, you had a different lifestyle when we were in Turkey than I'm having here in Los Angeles. And when she was over there, she could leave whenever she wanted to and go back to the US and she could go see her daughter. Remember how she was doing that? So it's a totally different set of standards for each of them in this situation. And he's just pointing that out to her. And she can't even say, yeah, I see that. That is different.
Nope.
It's
And then
all
she
his fault.
comes out with this rich one. I'm sitting here thinking that I could find someone better to be with.
That was
And
kind.
he was like, I'm everything that you wanted. You know, you wanted a bad boy. And then she cuts him off. She's like, I wanted a real man. And now he's not a real man because he's become emotionally intelligent and vulnerable, and he's being vulnerable with her. And now she sees that as a turnoff.
I didn't take it that way. I thought she was trying to get across to him that she just, in this moment, she just doesn't like him at all. I didn't take it as a criticism of him being open and honest with her because she has, in a way, she has talked about that, where she wants to know him more deeply than surface level. And so he's had to change his quote unquote bad boy ways in order to accommodate that desire of hers for them to develop this closer relationship, more monogamous relationship than anything he's had in the past. So I just thought she was throwing everything out towards him that she could possibly think of that would hurt him. And that was one of the ways to do it, saying you're not manly or you're not masculine enough or whatever it was she came up with. It was just bullshit. She had all kinds of very not nice things to say to him, like, no one's forcing you to stay. You can leave whenever you want. Passive aggressive much?
And I don't even know if I want to get married. I never wanted to get married again.
Yeah.
Okay, Shawn.
Yeah.
Like, what is this shit? And then she gets up and she leaves because he won't apologize. And do you know what she wants him to apologize for?
She wants him to apologize for all the things that she listed, being rude, being disrespectful. There was a whole litany of things that she listed off. And she was expecting him to start off by apologizing for that. And he's like, no, I'm not apologizing. Are you going to apologize? And she absolutely will not apologize. So when she doesn't get what she wants from him, another way of trying to control him, she leaves. She runs away.
Because it's bad for her mental health to have a serious discussion with her fiancé about his feelings.
Yeah.
What about his feelings? What about kindness and compassion? Well, that's right. She has none.
No, none. All sold out here. Try
If
next
it
year.
ever existed.
Yeah.
It was kind of like she got into the relationship and she wanted to mold this bad boy into who she wanted him to be. And now he's really come around and he's grown and he's become very likable. Now she's like, no. I don't want this. This isn't what I want. I want you to go back to your bad boy ways, but to be my bad boy.
She's definitely very controlling.
Yeah, either way, I don't care. I don't like her. I think he's better off without her. The man obviously has the ability to grow and learn and change, whereas she does not. And I'll say it again, he's too good for her.
I'd have to agree with you on that count. Shall we read on?
Yes, please.
Greg and Joan have 45 days left at the beginning of their segment, and they are bathing the puppies, which is very cute.
I love the way that the dogs got the zoomies after they had their bath. Typical.
Halfway through the dog bathing, Greg gets a call about his job interview, and it is great, fantastic news. He got the job, so Joan is not returning to Uganda. She's going to stay. Hurrah.
Excellent. Proud of him. That phone call, though, was so fake. Oh, yeah, yes, this is Greg. Oh, yeah, the state of New York. Oh, yeah, yes, hi, yeah.
Yes, just happened to happen while the camera crew was in the kitchen in order to capture this moment.
Yeah, and his mom saying, his phone's been ringing off the hook. yet she doesn't bring it to him while it's ringing. He just comes out with his phone up to his ear. All right.
However they staged it, I don't really care. He got the job, and that is the salient point.
Did we find out what the position was?
No, we did not.
I think he mentioned before that it was like a facilities position, but he was offered a job previously. So was it anyway, it doesn't matter. He got a
Doesn't
job.
matter.
Good.
So with this happy news, they decide to take a trip to New York City. Now they only have 36 days left. It appears that he hasn't yet started his job. That's what I gleaned from this. But they're already spending the money that he will make while he's doing this job. And in this instance, I kind of approve of that.
No, I think Joan has been put through so much since she's arrived. And I think it was really thoughtful of him to want to give her almost like a last hurrah before he has to go back to work, or to go to work for the first time. I love their dynamic together. Even before the job, just in their initial interview, they just looked so cute together, and joking and smiling with each other, and their the eye connection. And then when they're in New York, she's just full of awe and wonder. And I really think that he put in the effort to make her happy. And you could tell how much they love each other in that scene, I guess, or in their portion of scenes. I thought it was beautiful. The rose petals and the champagne, and they were all kisses, and typically I'm like, okay, we don't need to see that, but I thought it was actually really nice for them to have that time, and for us to see how much they really do love each other. And it was,
yeah, for once we didn't have the disrespectful moment of the camera crew being in the same room as them when they start getting into the heavy petting or taking off their clothes and coming out in lingerie and whatnot. So I was very happy at the way that the camera crew treated the couple in this intimate scene. I loved his romantic gesture towards Joan with all of the things in the hotel room. That was really, really sweet. Top marks to Greg for that.
I wonder if she did put on lingerie, because when the camera crew leaves, he made a comment, and I was like, that's wonderful. Way to be respectful of yourself and each other, and to not objectify her. Oh,
Yeah.
here's a woman in lingerie. Oh, she's so sexy. No, it was very respectful and safe, because he used those fake candles. And how many times have we talked about them being a fire hazard? Because, they get into it and they forget them, or they're just not smart. I forget who it was, but like the candles were all like melting down the side of the nightstand.
That was Vea and what's his name? Sonny.
No,
Sonny
Rory.
and yeah, Rory.
Oh, no, but I think Greg did a really good job.
I just wanted to return for a moment before we leave them to his job, not the romantic job, his actual job, because I have a very, very strong premonition that this job will not last long at all, that he's going to lose this job very quickly, either by screwing it up or just through his own choice. He'll say, oh, it's really not suited to me, or I don't enjoy it. I'd rather be doing something different or following my bread passion. So I believe that he'll lose his job quickly. Joan is going to have to become the breadwinner for the family, and Greg is going to be the bread maker, quite simply.
See what you did there? I feel like I said it last week, or maybe even the week before, that even if he does get this job, it's not going to last long.
No.
I don't think he has the ambition. I don't think that he has the work ethic. I hope he does, because Joan deserves it. And this episode alone, it was so enjoyable to watch, and I really do want to see them succeed. And that's only going to work if Greg stops being a bum.
We shall see. Let's read on. Jessica and Juan are visiting their wedding venue, which is outdoors, and it is still winter time.
I had so much to say about this.
Okay, let's hear it.
I think she really sold it when, she had the forethought of the weather, and the wedding planner or the event person mentions, we'll have blankets and clear umbrellas. What did she say? Because with the umbrellas, there's no snow accumulation.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to prevent the snow from accumulating on the ground with umbrellas? Is it going to be one massive umbrella to cover the entire territory, area, whatever. And also, if you're worried about it being that cold, why don't you just have it inside? And Juan starts talking about his family. They're from Colombia. They're gonna freeze. Their excuse me, their typical wedding attire is very thin material, and they're gonna freeze. And then the event planner says something like, "Well, if it's a blizzard and it's -16, you have the option of bringing it inside." And my question was, like, is that the threshold? -16 and a blizzard? And is that in Fahrenheit?
Yeah, I think she said -60.
Oh,
That's what I heard. And yeah, I think it's Fahrenheit. I don't understand cold temperatures in Fahrenheit. I'm Celsius. I expect it's quite cold. Anything actually would be quite cold in wintertime when you're dressed formally. Can you wear your big parka floofy jacket thing while you're sitting there waiting for the bride to come down the aisle? And think of how far apart you have to sit if you each have to have your own umbrella above you. You can't have people sitting close together. You got to have them at least spaced 2 or 3 feet. Just not very well thought out. And also, I love the fact that Juan says, this is good and all, but I'd really love to have some element of my culture here, something Colombian, so that I feel like I'm a part of this and it reflects who I am. And Jessica calls it irritating that he would like to include anything of him at their wedding. Their wedding. It's not her wedding, it's their wedding.
And now.
Yeah. Like she couldn't have asked him.
It would have been nice to know like a year ago, or maybe even 2. Come on.
I know. She puts it all on him. Like, Jessica, can you not have said to him, Juan, are there any elements that you would like to include in our wedding that I may not have thought of? This is the general plan that I have so far. He's supposed to know that he has to tell you this a year or 2 in advance. I don't quite understand that.
I feel like she was passing the buck.
Yes.
Taking no responsibility, because obviously she didn't care enough to ask him about anything. And, even Gino, when he had that video thing with Jasmine and he had like the Panama flags in the background, and she freaked out because they were upside down or something. But even Gino had the forethought for that, and Jessica didn't.
Nope. And she's irritated when he says he'd like to change something. And it's not like he's saying, well, this will not do. I need an entirely different venue, or I insist that we have 10 bridesmaids and they all have to wear cat outfits. It's not an unreasonable request to say, I'd like a couple of elements that reflect my culture because I am Colombian. And she's like, no. She's so hard selling him on what she's already predetermined is going to be their wedding. It's quite off-putting.
Live, laugh, love. As her walls say. I found her behavior just so off-putting. And I feel like it's really, really pushing him in the direction that I want him to go.
So that's the next scene where we see Juan going to the gym with his buddy.
Yes.
And now we're at the 48-day mark. There's still quite a bit of time, but he's holding back something very critical that he hasn't shared with Jessica, but that he shares with his buddy at the gym, which is that he hasn't actually quit. And he's had a phone call from the cruise ship
calling him back. I thought that he did quit and they were calling him because they wanted him back. I must have missed that.
Yeah. So he says that when he left, he'd never actually formally quit. He wanted to keep that option open so that in the future, should he feel like he needs to go back to make some quick money, he can.
Some quick money with a 6-month tour.
For 6 months. Yes.
I love this much for him.
I do too. And I found it hilarious when he's talking to, his name is Herbie, the friend, who was Megan's husband, by the way. I didn't realize she was even married.
I didn't catch that based on how it was.
Crazy Megan's husband, Herbie. They're talking about what kind of jobs are available actually in Torrington. And Juan wants to know if there's any bartending jobs. No, sadly.
Look on his face when Herbie was telling him what the job options were, he just looked so sad and dejected. and disappointed. I felt
Yeah.
so bad for him.
Yeah, when there's only really one field to work in, agriculture, and that
Quite
means
literally one field, am I right?
and he's going to be working outdoors year round. He doesn't know what to do with himself. He realizes he's never going to find a job there that he actually loves and enjoys the way that he's enjoyed his job on the cruise ship. So what the heck is he supposed to do?
As a born and raised Canadian who has suffered through I shan't out my age, but a long time, I would never get a job that involves being outdoors in the winter. Walking to the bus stop is pretty much my extent. Maybe a lovely hike once every now and again, but to have to be outside for that long, no. And I am familiar with this weather. That
Mhm.
poor guy knows nothing but the beautiful tropics and, those storms, and poor guy.
Yeah. I feel really badly for him. But like you said, this is the moment that we've been waiting for because we want to find out what he's going to do when he has this option to go back. Will he take it? How much is Jessica going to freak out? Is she going to allow him to go? And is he going to go regardless of her giving permission or not?
Even after he got the call, he was waffling as to whether or not he was going to tell her about it. And my question was whether or not you're going to tell her that you got the call, or whether or not you're going to tell her that you took the job.
Remains to be seen. I think that's coming up next week.
They're probably going to skip it because it is so enticing.
Yeah, maybe.
That's my prediction. But you know what? It'll be worth the wait.
I agree.
Shit, I'm positive about this.
Calm down. Mark and Mina, they have 40 days left. Mark is away, he's working. So Mina is in the house alone with Maria. And I like the fact that she goes around taking down all of the photos of Mark's ex wife off the walls and off the little picture frames that are sitting around the house. Good for you. Of course, you have a right to do that.
I 100% agree.
But I was very disappointed when she picked up the one picture frame of a woman and Mark, and the woman was wearing a mask because it was obviously during COVID times. And this was one of the series that he has of all of the famous people that he's flown around the world. And she didn't recognize who the woman was. I was like, come on, Mina. Can you do you not pay any attention to what's going on in the world? It was Kamala Harris.
Oh, I hadn't realized. I thought she was being petty at that point. I'm like, well, it's not his ex-wife, and your whole endeavor is to get rid of the ex-wife.
I could tell by the eyes. I don't know what to tell you. I was like, oh, wow, he flew Kamala. That's pretty cool.
That is really cool. I really hope that she didn't burn it.
I don't think she was going after the photos in his desk of him with his various, I don't know if you want to call them clients, but anyway, the people that he's passengers, I guess would be the appropriate word. Like he had George Bush in there, and I think he had some other politicians. I'm not sure if it was Clinton or Obama, but anyway.
Oh, and it was in that collection.
Yes, it was.
Okay,
yes.
okay. Now it's coming back to me.
Okay. So next up, Mina goes to visit the neighbors.
But before she starts doing the whole picture thing, she says it's so strange to be alone with her kid. She does say in the US, but I wanted to leave it at that. It's strange to be alone with her kid. But why?
Yeah. Well, maybe she's always used to having the two kids around. I'm not sure exactly how to take it.
The nanny.
The nanny. Her nanny?
I just assume that she had a nanny.
Which her son is staying with her sister, not sister, remember? Or cousin, not cousin?
Well, we don't even the story keeps changing. Anyway, let's move on because I feel like I'm just being distracting.
Okay, she goes over to, I think it's Martini Pat's house.
It is Martini Pat.
Martini Pat is making martinis, and this is called the Stitch and Bitch Club. I would like to join, please.
This is my idea of a good time. I don't know if you know this, but I have been crocheting since I was 6.
I did not know that.
And I like to bitch. So this is just like such a lovely atmosphere. And I love the age range of everyone there.
Mm-hmm.
And I also love the fact that when Martini Pat was describing it and she said, we're all married to type A personalities and we need to bitch about it just to get it out of our system. Some of us like to drink, some of us like to stitch, and then we just all get together and basically just venting and just hanging out and being girlfriends. I thought just such a beautiful community event.
Highly civilized. I wholeheartedly approve of this activity. Very psychologically satisfying and probably really good for your mental health.
I loved it.
So
And I'm so glad that she went.
when they're talking about what Mina is experiencing in her day-to-day life, I found it really sad when she's describing what it's like when Mark is gone. She says she basically just watches TV and sleeps. I was like, Lord, that's not good, especially when you've got this young girl. How old is Maria? She's like 1.5 or 2 by now.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, she's really little, and your mom sounds like she's in a depression. That's not great. And
Yeah, it was sad. Get a hobby. What did you do back home? She did say that when she moved here that she left her job, but I've never heard. Oh, well, she was a model, right?
yeah, but wasn't she working in a club of some kind? No.
No, he met her at a club.
They say they met at a restaurant when their eyes locked across a room, but you and I have talked, I think, off podcast about whether or not we believe that the restaurant is real and it could actually be code for gentleman's club.
Yes. But she was a model. We know that for a fact because when she went to go see, I think it was Diana, and when she came out wearing that beautiful white suit, she was like, "Oh, I can see why you were a model. That fits you beautifully."
Mhm.
So
Okay.
maybe
Anyway.
modeling was her side gig, whatever.
Doesn't matter. So
Again,
they're talking about the prenup, and the women are giving Mina, I think, some great advice. They're talking about how she should go and get a lawyer and really get some advice and how she should protect herself. It's not just a document to protect Mark. I love that. And you can really see Mina's emotions come to the surface. I think she breaks down crying at one point, but she's also really, really invested in her relationship to be crying in front of these women and suffering so much. Like she's really scared by all the changes that she's made to her life. She's scared at the prospect of the prenup and is worried that it could be a document that's just going to cast her out without a penny to her name if their marriage doesn't work. So she has her own idea of what she's going to do, what she's going to ask for in the prenup as a condition of her own, which is that she wants Mark to formally adopt her. Now she says children, but she's just referring to her son at this point because Maria, as we know, is Mark's child. So I thought that was pretty brave of her.
And that's a very common misconception about prenups, that it's always one-sided. However, in Canada legally, is it a requirement? Probably not. But in the prenups that I have seen, there's always a clause where both sides need to get independent legal advice. So if you get that drafted on your end, fine. The other one has to take it to a lawyer to get that signed off on. And I mean, you can definitely just sign off saying, I didn't get independent legal advice. And if you didn't, that could potentially impact whether or not the contract is enforceable because you didn't get legal advice.
Yeah, well, I think she's definitely going to go get legal advice and she knows what she wants out of this contract. So I'm really more confident that she's on the right path now for the prenup. There is going to be one, she is going to sign it, and everything is going to be equal for both of them. That she's going to look out for herself because she's getting her own lawyer, and Mark's going to look out for whatever interest he wants to protect as well.
No, and I think it's wonderful that she's thinking about what she wants. And if him adopting her son is going to make her happy and make her feel safe, 100%. It makes me wonder where her son's father is. If he's in the kid's life, is he going to have to jump through hoops in order to actually get this adoption signed off on? Like, we don't know anything about baby daddy, so who really knows?
I think you can't even adopt somebody unless the parental rights have been relinquished by the natural parent.
Either relinquished or ordered by the courts to be relinquished.
I don't think that she could have moved to the US with her son if her baby daddy didn't already not have any rights of parental jurisdiction over his own son, because otherwise she would not have been allowed to leave the country with Clayton. So I think that this is definitely somebody who is no longer in the picture. And that's why Mina wants the father figure to be legally set in stone for Clayton. and for herself too, just to know that Clayton is looked after if something happened to her.
And I feel like you mentioned in one of the first episodes that you thought that the reason why the child couldn't come over was because there was issues with adoption.
I might have said that. I don't remember.
I feel like you did, because I don't think that came out of my mouth. But I think we had that conversation because that was new to me. I hadn't thought about that. Anyway, I'm giving you credit for it.
Thanks. I think.
Yeah.
And reading on.
Yeah.
Stevi and Mahdi, with only 12 days before the wedding, I'm happy to report that the couple is no longer talking to one another. Yeah. So they need, of course, to talk things through, just as Shekinah and Sarper did, but hopefully with a better result. They need to talk about what happened yesterday when they were at the wedding venue and they had a discussion which kind of broke down about how Stevi may or may not be bisexual. Mahdi needs an answer. He needs it to be clear. He needs it to be honest. He needs it to be direct. Stevi is none of those things.
She has done nothing wrong. She doesn't know why.
I'm sorry. She has done nothing wrong.
She hasn't. Well, that's what she says. She hasn't done anything wrong.
Sure.
He needs to trust her and take her non-answers as answers.
Yes. So my immediate thought when I started hearing all of this crap that came out of her mouth was, well, think about it. If you were Stevi and you were not attracted to women, why wouldn't you just say it? Why wouldn't you just put your fiance's mind at ease and say, it's okay, honey, you don't need to worry about that. I like men and I happen to love you and I'm going to marry you. So get that other stuff out of your head. You don't have to worry about it. Why would she not say that?
Because that's not true.
That is the conclusion that I reached. It's pretty logical, right? And if she is being dishonest, as you and I both suspect that she is very strongly, then your dishonesty towards your husband is a rather huge red flag.
Indeed. And he even said, like, he reflected it back on her. If I had a sexual preference that I didn't tell you before we got married, that would be a big deal.
Yeah. But she refuses to label herself. She won't give herself a category to be placed in. Straight, bi, gay, pan, poly, whatever. She will not label herself. And she says to him, I just want you to leave me alone about it. Like, this is not him pestering her to change a habit. This is asking her a very honest and very relevant question to their relationship.
I think it would be completely different if he was pestering her about having a threesome, i.e. Rob, and she says, leave me alone about it. That's fine. But I agree with him that this needs to be resolved. She needs to answer the question so that he can plan his life accordingly. If those are his values and how, or whatever his values are, whatever he wants in a relationship, that's entirely up to him. That's valid. Her lack of answers kind of disrupts that.
Kinda. Yeah. Kind of a lot. I
wonder if she just doesn't want to say anything because Daddy Redneck is a homophobe.
Oh.
And or the community that she lives in is blue and or intolerant.
Yeah.
And she doesn't want to out herself.
That's
why she's being so non-committal about it.
But she's not just non-committal in her answers. She's so defensive in giving her non-answers. And that to me is also a red flag, that she is so vehemently not wanting to talk about this, not wanting to give him an answer, not wanting to be put in a box. She is so offended by him asking her, which I just find weird.
I wonder if that's also projection because she's uncomfortable with it herself.
Yeah. Go deep, Dr. Amy. That's very, very possible.
I don't think anyone's called me a doctor since I was about 4.
I don't want to know.
I had one of those like child doctor kit things.
Yes, with the plastic stethoscope.
Yeah, I'd walk around with one of those and I had Band-Aids and I'd put Band-Aids on people and they would call me Dr. Amy. Anyway, that's my life story. Then she says that if he calls it off, she doesn't want to be with someone like that. I hit my fist on my desk and I said, if he calls it off, you don't have a choice. This is like a non-statement.
If he doesn't want to marry me, yeah. If he doesn't want to marry you because you won't answer an honest question,
And a valid question, a reasonable question,
then he is correct in not marrying you because you are not being honest with him about something which is pretty important. The way that she's going in circles about this drove me a little crazy, and I think it's so transparent now. There obviously is something there. She doesn't want to talk about it, but he is totally right that he deserves to be let in and to know what's happening. Even if it's just for her to say, like, I'm confused. Sometimes I do feel that way and I'm not really sure.
That would be an answer.
That would be.
But she's giving nothing.
Nope.
Instead, she deflects, she projects. She also said that his question about, I forget what the question was, but anyway, she said that it was ridiculous and offensive. The question, are you bi?
Yes.
Excuse me, is ridiculous and offensive and like just sheer manipulation.
Totally.
His feelings don't matter. She's, again, dismissive, disrespectful, just awful. Again, this guy deserves so much more.
Yeah. I really have to give it to Mahdi. He is so patient and he's so understanding. He's clearly frustrated and wants to be let in. He wants for this wall of secrecy to be dropped, and he wants to know more about his wife to be, and she will not let him. So good on him that he remains so calm and doesn't throw a fit and say, why won't you tell me what's going on?
And he's so articulate with his communication with her. He's careful with his words, whereas she, like, very reflective of Shekinah, is just like scrambling in a ball pit and is just throwing like every insult to undermine him. Maybe not insults in this situation, but just, again, manipulative tactic. Stop asking me these questions.
Let's move on. Let's talk about Shawn and Alliya, who only have 25 days left.
Time is flying for some couples.
For some, it's going so quickly, and for others, it's like a snail's pace. Well, these two are doing wedding crafts, which is so adorable and cute. They're making little outfits for Maxwell, the dog, who's not only participating in the wedding, of course, but he's going to be wearing 2 different outfits. He has a costume change midway through.
I can't tell you how much I love this.
I thought it was just adorable. I love that they're including their pet.
As an aside, if Shekinah and Sarper, if they did get married, I would fully support the house cows and them having costume changes. They could be like the flower cows.
I want a wedding with house cows. Damn it.
Do you? Do you though?
I do.
But they shit everywhere. You could have some sort of like an incognito diaper.
I don't want to think about that. Let's
just for the ceremony. And then they could have their own outdoor area because they do live in LA. Outdoor area.
Yeah.
It would just, I fully support the idea. I think it would be absolutely lovely. And oh my God, imagine if they had, I'm clapping. Imagine if they had flower tiaras. Cows with flower tiaras.
Well, I think you should go plan Shekinah and Sarper's wedding because you have some fantastic ideas.
Thank you. Back
to Alliya. She's talking about how things are still not quite settled between her and Shawn. Yes, we are aware of this. And most of it revolves around the fact that she is still transitioning, and how far is she going to transition? We don't know. She says in this episode she wants to make some surgical changes to her body so she can feel more comfortable in her own skin. Okay, great. And she's made an appointment to go get some questions answered, and Shawn is going to go with her.
Fantastic.
So far, so good.
Before we get to the doctor's appointment.
Yeah, but I haven't gotten there yet. Let's talk about it.
Okay, so he says that he doesn't think that the marriage is going to survive the transition.
Yes, the most important part of all of their segment. The marriage will not survive. What a statement.
So then why get married?
Exactly.
Why are you entertaining this?
Why are you stringing her along? If you already know that if she becomes physically a woman, that you are not going to want to be with her, what are you doing?
Yeah. This isn't fair.
No. Same as always, Shawn is just completely stuck in this rut of feeling like he's leaving Douglas behind. Douglas is being erased. I think is the word he used. He's still lamenting the loss of Douglas rather than celebrating Alliya coming into herself. So he, at the doctor's appointment, talks about all of the negative points revolving around surgery, even down to, oh, but what about the scars? Not surprising that he took that tact. He's just very, very reluctant for her to go through with this. And he wants to know right now, is Alliya going to transition all the way, fully, or not? How is Alliya supposed to know the answer to that question?
I feel like this is so soon into finding herself that by putting pressure on her to make that decision at this point is doing her a complete and utter disservice. She's come so far into finding herself. Give her the space, the freedom, the kindness, and compassion to figure out what her authentic self is. If that involves fully transitioning, you either support it or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they're kind of playing us at this point.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's
The repetitiveness of this issue coming up over and over again in their timeline, not just for this season, but for the previous one, gives me the feeling that this is the only trick that they have in their repertoire for this couple. This is the only bit of contention that they can develop into enough drama to make it interesting to watch them. So that's why we're getting so much negativity from Shawn. It is possible that he doesn't feel entirely negative towards Alliya transitioning. And I hope that that's the truth, because like you said, why is he with her now if that's how he really feels? And all signs are pointing to the fact that Alliya is going to transition fully. I don't know how else to express it. I'm sorry, I don't have the words. But if she is going to get all the female parts on her body at some point, why would Shawn stay with her? Because he already knows that he doesn't want those bits. He prefers the male bits.
I got the feeling at the end of the episode that he was actually being supportive.
Yes, there was an about face.
I was very surprised and very pleased with that. Whether or not their relationship survives is another issue altogether, but Alliya needs this support.
She definitely does. And I wish she had more of it, but you're right. It was a more positive tone at the end of their segment. And I think that they're doing that to counteract all of this negative stuff that they're throwing onto us, because otherwise it wouldn't be believable when we find that, yes, they do get married and they are still together, that it won't like seem so, I want to use the word cognitive dissonance here, that it won't be a cognitive dissonance for us, because we'll have seen Shawn actually does respect and love and support Alliya in some ways. He's had some hesitancies, but those have been manufactured to seem bigger than they actually are.
Yes, I think those are, or that was the most perfect term that you could have used.
Okay.
Because I was also struggling with how to describe it, but I was stuck on incongruence.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, it is. Any
I like
other
your phrasing
comments?
better.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Any other comments on the couples or the episode?
No, I don't think so. I think I got it all out.
All right, good. So next week we're going to see Jessica and Juan with their combined bachelorette parties. Not sure I want to see that. Mina signed her prenup agreement. Will sign, I guess, next week.
She will sign it.
Yes, with the condition that we talked about earlier. Mahdi has a friend in the US, and I'm like, hooray, this is fantastic. I'm glad he does. And this friend has some serious questions that he wants to ask of Stevi. Good.
His friend, even just in the preview, I was like, excellent.
Yes. His friend really looks like he's going to put Stevi on the hot seat, which I'm going to enjoy, I think.
Yes. But in a more healthy way than Megan.
Yes, let's not go there again. Finally, next week's preview, we also saw that Amani and Matt are going to get the details from Ray about who Ani really is, and then Brenda will join them. Great.
Okay.
I really don't know where they're going with this storyline. It's just kind of entertaining at the moment. At least
like a telenovela at this point.
Yes,
you know?
At least we're not talking about sex anymore. We're not in their bedroom anymore. They're not doing half naked stuff in front of us anymore. So at least I'm being entertained that way.
That's an excellent point. I think this is the first time that we've seen them where sex hasn't been brought up.
Yeah. It's much more interesting when we're not delving into the nitty gritty of their intimate life. Before we go, if you're enjoying the 90 Day Fiancé Honestly podcast, please subscribe to or give our show a follow. And if you have an additional moment, please rate us and help other 90 Day fans to find the show. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next week.